What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another live stream. Unfortunately, missed last week because I was out of town at a tournament, but we are back today. We are back a little early today. We're starting a little early as this will be a little bit of a shorter stream. I have to be gone by about 1:50, 1:55. I have to be off because I have some things to do and I have some things to take care of before I can play in a game tonight. So that's got to get done sooner rather than later. However, as I missed last week, I did want to get a stream in today. It will just be a little bit of a shorter one. It'll just be a little bit of a shorter stream, which is unfortunate, but we got to make it work sometimes. And again, as I said, I missed last week, so I wanted to get another one in today, and I wanted to get back on track with the live streams and the Lions talk. So today we are going to open with the Lions free agent acquisitions, and as people begin to roll in, of course, leave your comments, leave your suggestions, leave your questions about the free agents that we've signed, anything you got for me. Obviously, this whole thing really works as an interactive piece, I guess. So obviously, leave your comments, your thoughts down in the comments, and we'll get to them as well. But starting today with the Detroit Lions free agent signing so far, it's Blitz says, "Sup peeps, how you doing today?" One Pride 40 says, "Would you like to sign Kazi or KZ? I don't know how to pronounce it still. I'd be a big fan. I think he's really, really good. I think he forces a lot of turnovers. He's more of a free safety, more so than a box strong safety, which I think is a little questionable. Obviously, a lot of people want to see Tracy in that high safety. Obviously, a lot of people want to see Tracy Walker play that high safety role. So that's always something that, you got to keep in mind. Like, do we already have that role that he would play? But I don't think signing him would hurt. I think it would be a good opportunity, good depth, good signings. And I would be a big fan if we were to sign him. But starting off with the actual free agents that are signed so far, obviously we've talked about most of these guys already, but just kind of go over it again to open the show. Obviously Tyrell Williams was the first free agent signing. He was signed a couple of weeks ago at this point, actually, which is a weird thing to say because it does not feel like it's been a couple weeks, but it has been. He was signed. His contract is not very bad. As you can see, signed 1 year, $3 million guaranteed. So, I mean, relatively cheap wide receiver, a guy that's gone over 1,000 yards before, a guy that obviously big body, big wide receiver, runs incredibly fast, just a good wide receiver all around, is coming off a little bit of an injury concern, but, obviously very cheap deal, prove it deal. I'm a big fan of this one. I think this is a good deal. I think this is a good contract for the Lions. Obviously, bringing in some very good wide receiver help, bringing in some guys that are, lesser known guys, not as big name of free agents, but guys that I think can really, really be impactful for this Lions team. One Pride 40 says he would be cheap. I think he would be cheap. He forced a lot of turnovers in his time with Atlanta, which I really like. As I said yesterday, he had those 10 interceptions in really just 2 seasons. And then in his first 4 seasons, on top of that, he is forced 5 fumbles as well. So, he gets the ball out. He turns the ball over. He gets turnovers for your defense. So, I'd be a big fan if we were to sign him. I would be a big fan, and that's one of the big name guys right now that I'm really hoping the Lions go after. It seems like the Lions and the Dallas Cowboys are the 2 teams that are really competing for him. Obviously, they're the 2 teams so far. I believe they're the only 2 teams that have brought him in for a workout and brought him in for an interview. So it seems like those are the 2 real big bidders. And obviously, Dallas has already signed a safety. They signed Keanu Neal, I believe, if I saw that correctly. They've already signed Keanu Neal, which is big. So, I think there's a real possibility that he comes to Detroit, but I think that it's going to be a tough competition, a tough battle with Dallas to see who goes where. Don Burr is in the building. What is up, Don Burr? He says, the way we are moving, I can tell you what, they by all means are trying to win more games than we think. I believe so. I think the Lions don't look at this as a rebuild. I don't think Brad Holmes, I don't think that Dan Campbell, I don't think Aaron Glenn or Anthony Lynn or any of our positional coaches or any of the players for that matter are looking at this as a rebuild. I think they're, and I think the way they're talking about it in their press conferences, right? Dan Campbell was just saying, like, regardless of what you want to call it, we're going to put the most competitive team on the field to win football games. You don't say that if you're looking to rebuild. You don't say that if you're expecting to win a very few games. You don't say that if you're not expecting to have a lot of success this year. Dan Campbell, really the first thing he said when they were talking about rebuild, retool, or whatever they want to call it, he said, our job is to put the best team on the field. Our job is to put the best competitors and the best players on the field to win us football games. So I don't think that it's in their mentality. I don't think that the Lions are thinking, this is a rebuild. We're going to take 2 or 3 years to get competitive. They're thinking we're going to bring in our guys now. We're going to be as competitive as possible now, and we're going to build off whatever we can do this season. And I like that mentality. I think that mentality is a very good thing to have as a coach, as a very good thing to have as a general manager. And I'm very happy with the direction the Lions are going right now, and more so just the way that they seem to have a plan at this point, which I'm very, very happy with. It's Blitz says we're drafting a wide receiver in the first. I really hope we do not. I really hope we don't draft a wide receiver in the first. And I made a whole video on that talking about it. So if anybody wants to go hear my deeper reasonings, if anybody wants to go hear my deeper analysis on that, obviously that video is up. It was uploaded a couple of days ago. One Pride 40 says, no, we're not. I really hope that's true. We're trading back, about to load up on more draft capital. That I think would be the best opportunity. I'm really, really hoping that we are able to trade back. I'm really hoping we're able to kind of stack up on draft picks. A lot of people are thinking, trade down to 15, trade down to or at latest like the 20th pick with like Washington or whoever holds the 20th pick. I think it's Washington. Washington might hold 19. But, somewhere around there, that's where a lot of people are thinking. And I think if we trade down there, obviously we get still decent value, still mid first round pick talent at that pick. And I think we can get another first out of it. I think we can get a lot of value out of trading down. And honestly, I think trading down would be the best move for the Detroit Lions. Not to say that the value isn't there at 7, because the more I look at it, there are some good talents there. Obviously, Kyle Pitts is there. I know a lot of people are high on Kyle Pitts, more so because he's just a huge weapon for Jared Goff, and I think that would be an okay option as long as they have a plan. Rashawn Slater, I think, is my guy if we're stuck at 7. Rashawn Slater, I watched him a lot recently. He's really, really good at Northwestern. I mean, he plays incredibly well. I would not be mad at him at all. He would be probably my first pick if we are stuck at 7 and he is there, but my first choice would obviously, as I've said for many months at this point, would be to trade down and get as many picks as possible. Hopefully as many picks in the top 100 as possible to get the best value of player, get the best, hypothetically, the best talent and the best value for your talents while still getting as many picks as you possibly can. That would be my hope for it if we do end up trading down. Obviously, I'm hoping we get as many picks within the top 100 as possible. But at the end of the day, I'm hoping we get as many picks as possible to try to really add as much talent and as much competition to this room as we possibly can. One Pride 40 says, better be Chase. Yeah, if we draft a wide receiver, it better be Ja'Marr Chase or nobody. Like, if we're drafting a wide receiver at 7, it better be Ja'Marr Chase, because anybody else I will be extremely unhappy with. Was coaching so bad? Coaching was incredibly bad last year. I don't know what you're talking about, like coaching wise. Like, I don't know if you mean this year, last year, or if you're talking about like somebody else's coaching. But last year was bad coaching. I was just gonna say that. I like Smith better than Chase. You are out of your mind. Obviously, opinions are opinions. You're very valid to have your own opinion. I think Ja'Marr Chase is much better. I think he's significantly better. I even think when Jalen Waddle is healthy, he's better than Devontae Smith. But, everybody's got their own rankings. Everybody got their own thing. And Devontae Smith, obviously a very, very good wide receiver. Won the Heisman for a reason. Obviously Ja'Marr Chase didn't play. Jalen Waddle didn't play a lot of the season, but he won on the Heisman for a reason. He was named the best player in college football for a reason. He's a good wide receiver. I just don't quite have him at that wide receiver 1. One Pride. We move him back, getting more draft picks. Guys are smart and are moving precisely and calculated. I think that's exactly how they're doing it. I think that Brad Holmes, especially with the addition of John Dorsey, with the addition of Ray Agnew, with the addition of obviously our new head coach, I think they got a plan. I think they really, really do have a plan. And, obviously I think Quinn had a plan, but I think for the first time in a long time, our front office is actually executing the plan that they had in place, and they're executing it to a point where we can actually see where they're going. We can see the direction they want to move, and we can actually see how it's going to be successful. I think the big problem with Quinn was especially with Matt Patricia, it's like they were kind of on thin ice as soon as they got there, right? Quinn was, kind of on the hot seat already for getting rid of a 9-7, averaging a coach that averaged 9-7, a coach that averaged 9 wins a season. Like, you can't get rid of that guy and not have better success. So I think from that standpoint, he was already kind of on the hot seat, and then that put more pressure on him, and that kind of forced him to change the way he was trying to build the team. And I think that really, not to say it would have gone great either way, but I think that kind of screwed up Bob Quinn's plan a little bit, and I think that was really part of the downfall as well. If Zach Wilson or Chase falls, then they will be the pick at 7. That's very true. I don't see Zach Wilson falling in any capacity. There's no reality where Zach Wilson should be at the number 7 overall pick. Like, it shouldn't happen. I don't see a reality where that happens. But if it does happen, if Zach Wilson is at 7, the Lions should absolutely take him. And then same thing with Ja'Marr Chase. I really don't see him falling past Philadelphia. If he's there at 6, I think Philly takes him. But, again, we'll have to wait and see. I don't think either of them will be there. But if either of them were the 7th overall pick, I'd be super happy with both. The Lions need to win a Super Bowl. That's what they need to do. That's the goal. That's the end goal, and hopefully they get there one day. But, small stepping stones at a time. You can't just go from, top 10 pick to Super Bowl champions, and you got to build it up. You're not going to turn it around in 1 year more likely than not. So, small steps at a time. Small steps you got to take. Just take, as long as the Lions are taking steps in the right direction, as long as they're showing improvement, as long as they're showing development, as long as they're getting better every year, it's hard to be mad at a team that improves every single year. If Goff turns out to be buns, then we got Seattle with Howell. Oh, we got to settle with Howell. I don't think Howell's that bad of a player, but that's not even necessarily true, because I think next year's quarterback class is still pretty solid all the way around. And I don't think Goff's going to be that bad. I think Goff is going to be a very solid quarterback for Detroit. I think he's going to be the starting quarterback for 2, maybe 3 seasons. So I don't think Goff is going to be that bad. And even if he is, I think the Lions do have some options moving forward. I don't think they're going to be stuck just with Sam Howell, but I don't think Sam Howell would be the worst option either. If we need to have healthier players that don't get injured for the games, the cost us chances for games at home and away. Yeah, I think the big thing, obviously, this was kind of Patricia's fault and kind of not his fault. Like, they signed and they drafted a lot of injury-prone players. Like, you have, obviously, Kenny Golladay was injury-prone for a couple of years. You have Julian Okwara, who's been injury-prone. Austin Bryant, who's been injury-prone. You have Hunter Bryant, who didn't play a lot because he was injured. You have, Big V, who was injured. Like, some of that is on Bob Quinn. Some of that is, you got to look at the players and say, well, did they struggle with injuries before? Because if it's like a one-time injury, then it's not that big of a deal. But if it's like a reoccurring, consistent thing, then you kind of got to take a step back and say, well, if it's going to keep happening, why would I take a player that's not going to be on the field for me? So I think a lot of their struggle had to do with injury and staying healthy. And I think part of that, obviously, some of that's just unavoidable. Injuries are going to happen. But I think that was part of Bob Quinn's flaw as well, is he kept taking injury-prone players that, yes, had potential to be good, but haven't been able to show that potential because they've been injured since their freshman year of college. Will we sign a linebacker in free agency or draft 2 to fill out our linebacking core? I think we sign one, and I think we draft one. I think what's left in free agency, I'm hoping at least that we sign at least one linebacker. I'm still looking at Eric Wilson out of Minnesota. Hopefully he comes to Detroit. Hopefully we can convince him. I'm thinking Damontae Kazee as a safety. I'd really like to see him. I heard today that there was a little bit of interest in AJ Boye, which would be super interesting. I'm not a big fan of that signing, but that could be a secondary player they fill out. There's a couple other depth wide receivers that they could still go after. I'm, still hoping maybe they get a home run hitting running back, a guy that, runs in the 4.3s, a guy that runs a really fast 40, a guy that has just really, really good explosiveness. There's a couple roles I still want the Lions to fill in free agency, but I think they will sign a linebacker. I think they will, in the next couple weeks or so before the draft hits, before draft season really gets kicked off. I do think that the Lions will sign at least one more linebacker, and I do think they're going to look to sign a safety because it seems like they have a lot of interest there as well. It's blitz. Trading down makes no sense. We have no effing wide receivers, regardless of who you want your quarterback. You need wide receivers. That's not even necessarily true though, because like people don't like Tyrell Williams a lot. He's a solid wide receiver. He's pretty good. Same with Brashad Perryman. Same with Quintez Cephas. Like we don't have that superstar wide receiver, but you don't necessarily need a superstar wide receiver to be successful in the NFL. Like I went over this the other day in my wide receiver video. Like you don't need this elite wide receiver to have team success. You need good wide receivers that do their job well. And if you're a good enough head coach, you can scheme your wide receivers open. You can scheme them into plays. You can give them screen passes and let them make moves downfield. You can scheme up, different route combinations, different play styles, different play sets, different formations to get your wide receivers open. You don't need a Calvin Johnson or a Randy Moss to be successful. And more oftentimes than not, when teams have that elite wide receiver, they don't even always succeed. Calvin Johnson never got a ring. Randy Moss never got a ring. Like, you don't need an elite wide receiver to have success in the NFL. Wide receivers actually genuinely don't have as much success. Teams with great wide receivers genuinely and generally don't have as much success as a lot of people would have you believe. I mean, Justin Jefferson had one of the greatest rookie seasons ever. His team didn't even make the playoffs. The Panthers had two 1,000-yard wide receivers. They didn't end up making the playoffs. Amari Cooper and Calvin Ridley and DeAndre Hopkins, none of their teams ended up making the playoffs. Like, the whole wide receiver argument doesn't make a lot of sense because wide receivers don't equate to wins. Wide receivers don't equal wins in the NFL. And, to be honest, there's a lot of good wide receivers in this draft class. I think forcing yourself to go 1 at 7 doesn't make a lot of sense, especially considering you have a lot of high potential guys all throughout the draft. All 7 rounds, I could find you a player that will start on the Detroit Lions and will give you a lot of production at the wide receiver position. So I think trading down does make a lot of sense. And I don't think taking a wide receiver is, one, a luxury the Lions have, or something that they should even really be considering. I think we go down the whole NFC North. Lions are possibly the second best team right now as we speak, and we are not even done wheeling and wheeling and dealing or drafting yet. I mean, I don't know if I'd say that they're second best team. I think Green Bay is definitely up there. Obviously, they're a pretty good team. Aaron Rodgers coming off his MVP season. They have obviously, Devontae Adams. They have David Bakhtiari, who's really good. They have Aaron Jones, who's back. They're losing out on their center, which is really, really big. I think that's going to be a big loss for them. But, you got – I wouldn't say we're the second most talented team in the North. I think we definitely have some pieces here and there. I think we have the best tight end in the North. I think we have arguably the best complete offensive line in the North, from, left tackle to right tackle all the way across. I think you could make the argument we have the best offensive line. I think we have, I was going to say we have one of the better running backs, but the NFC North is kind of stacked at running back. I mean, obviously Aaron Jones, Dalvin Cook. I think we have the third best running back. I love DeAndre Swift, but I'm not going to put him above Aaron Jones or Dalvin Cook yet. I think our wide receivers are definitely a step behind where they were last season. I think as far as quarterback, I'll take Jared Goff over both Andy Dalton, and I'll take him over Kirk Cousins. So I think we have the second best quarterback. I think we have some pieces, and I don't think we're the worst team in the North, but I don't think we're necessarily the second best team in the Northeast. I'd probably put us at third place if I'm being honest without bias. Blitz, where have you been? Receiver class is deep. This receiver class is stupid. I mean, this receiver class is really, really good. Trade down and grab Bateman. Bateman's an option if we do trade down. I don't think he'll be there on day 2. If he's there on day 2, he's an absolute steal. And even late in the first round, I think if we take him at like the mid 20s, I think that would be a really solid pickup for the Lions as well. Trade down, just not very far, just a few spots. Dude, don't waste your draft position. But that doesn't make sense. Like, this draft class is super, super deep, and I know that you could say that almost every single year that there's a lot of deep positions in this draft and that the draft class is talented, but this draft class actually, I think, has more value later in the first round than anything else. I think for the Lions, especially trying to build up trenches, especially if they need linebacker, like that 15 to 20 range is going to be prime for the Detroit Lions, because that's where you're going to get your top linebackers. That's where you're still going to have some solid wide receivers. That's where your Christian Barmore is going to go. That's where, your Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. That's where The Lions' best fits, I think, are in that 15 to 20 range. So if we do trade down to there, I would be happy. And even 25 to 32, I think there's some good value for the Detroit Lions. And if you do trade down that far, you'll get a lot more value out of a team trying to trade that far up, especially, if it's like the Bills, they want to trade up to get Kyle Pitts, like there was this, like we gave that example a couple weeks ago, whether that be one of the lower teams that want to trade up and get a quarterback, whether that be maybe the football team wants a quarterback. Maybe, Pittsburgh wants a quarterback. Maybe they're willing to give up a lot to trade up for a quarterback, especially if the rumors are true and Deshaun Watson goes to Philadelphia, then we're almost guaranteed a quarterback at 7. Like, I think there's a lot of value throughout the entire draft class, and I'm not super concerned about where we trade back because I think there's value at every single pick for the Lions in this draft. Wide receiver class is super deep. You'll have to do research before making crazy statements. I know. I mean, this wide receiver class is incredibly deep. Like I said, 7 rounds all the way through, you could find a wide receiver that'll be productive in the NFL. What's One Pride? What's up, One Pride? What's up, Don? Rounds 2 and 3 so heavy with wide receivers. Yeah, I mean, day 2 is going to have so many wide receivers come off the board, and because there are so many wide receivers, there's going to be some wide receivers that fall because not everybody can take a wide receiver. Not every wide receiver can go on days 1 and 2 of the draft. I mean, there's going to be some really good wide receivers that fall to day 3 that really shouldn't fall that far, but because the class is so deep, because there are so many good wide receivers coming out of this class, there's going to be a lot of wide receiver steals in this class, and the Lions could very realistically and easily get 2 or 3 of those guys if they just be patient and wait to pick their guy at the best value and at the best spot. You don't draft third-round wide receivers expecting them to be your wide receiver 1 with the new quarterback here. Like I said, you don't need a huge wide receiver 1. Tyrell Williams can be your wide receiver 1. He has the size. He has the speed. He gets okay separation. He can be your wide receiver 1. And he's not going to be a top 10 wide receiver, but he's going to be more than capable. Brashad Perryman is not going to be a great wide receiver 2. Won't be talked about as one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, like a Marvin Jones was one of the best number 2s, was one of the best backup or, one of the best, second wide receivers in the NFL, but he's going to be fine. Like, we don't need to draft a wide receiver to come in and be Megatron Johnson. We need to draft wide receivers to come in and do their job. Like, that's how the Lions should go about it. They shouldn't be drafting a guy expecting him to come in and be Calvin Johnson or Randy Moss or Jerry Rice. They should be drafting a guy to come in and do his job. And if they can do that, then they should have a lot of success. At Joey, what's up, my guy? Just got done on a Chicago blog. Lol, they whining like that's funny. I would assume they're not super enthusiastic about missing out on Zach Wilson. So yeah, I would assume they're not happy with the whole Andy Dalton situation, but I'm happy about it. I think it's funny. And if Wilson is on the board, he will be the pick. That's true. That is very true. If Wilson's at 7, he has to be the pick. At Don, they should be. They know the Bears heading for the basement. I mean, the Bears were about to give up an absolute haul for Russell Wilson. I mean, that trade where they were offering 3 first-round picks, Akeem Hicks and Kyle Fuller, that I would have taken if I was Seattle. That is a lot of value for a quarterback. And Russell Wilson is a good quarterback, but for a guy that's 31 years old, that is a lot of value for the Seattle Seahawks, especially considering their draft capital is not looking very good this year. And I'm sure if Bears fans are up there, they're upset they didn't get Russell Wilson. But, I mean, I think that would have just set them back even farther, to be totally honest. That's just my opinion, but I think it would actually be a bad move for them to trade for Russell Wilson, just because I think that would literally be tanking their cap space for many years with Khalil and Russell Wilson on the roster. Not to mention you'd be tanking your draft capital for almost a half a decade. So I actually think it was probably a good move for them not to make it, but at the same time they signed Andy Dalton, who I'm absolutely not scared of in the slightest. It's Blitz. The Rams drafted 3 wide receivers often, buddy. And the guy who they did or had apart is here, Brad Holmes. They're very, very true. Very, very true. Hey, build the team. I'm all in on it. Yeah, Yeah. 2022 class kind of buns. At what position though? Like, because there's some good players in the 2022 class. There's some good guys out there, and obviously the whole next college football season has to happen. So a lot's going to change from now until then. But I don't think they're that bad. Maybe not as good as this class, but especially at the wide receiver position. But the 2022 class is going to have some gems. One or two of these quarterbacks is going to be just okay if you're looking at the history. That's probably true. That's probably true. I guarantee you at least one of the big four does not live up to expectations. And that could be any of the four. That could be Zach Wilson. That could be Trevor Lawrence. That could be Justin, or that could be Trey Lance. It'll probably be whoever the Lions end up selecting. But honestly, yeah, historically speaking, one of these big four is probably not going to be very good. And historically speaking, probably only one of them is going to really be that next game-changing franchise quarterback that the team is looking for. I would take Fields over Lance. I would too. The obsessed Lions fan need to win the Super Bowl before the day we all die on this earth. I mean, I'm hoping, man. I am hoping. I'm not an idiot. I didn't say that there's anything wrong with the third round receivers. I said you do not leave the opening for a third rounder when you're paying your quarterback $40 million a year. Like I said, I don't think the Lions should draft a wide receiver at 7. If drafting back and you somehow get another first, and fans don't want 3 firsts next year, they don't know football. That's true. If you have the opportunity to get an extra first next year, and if we get an extra first next year and Lions fans are mad, I think that tells you exactly all you need to hear from them right there. You fill the spot and hope the player and grow into it. You fill the spot and hope the player can grow in. I don't know what you're talking about. Do you think Goof will beat Stafford in LA this year? But the first time meeting each other are separate teams. I don't know. I think it's very early to tell. Obviously, we haven't seen either Goff or Stafford on their new teams. Stafford is a better quarterback than Jared Goff, bar none. Not that Jared Goff is a bad quarterback in any way. I just think Matthew Stafford has more arm talent. I think he's more experienced, has a little bit more knowledge of the game. Obviously, has experienced much more than Jared Goff from a standpoint of, having to carry a team. He's experienced more. He's been through more. Obviously, he has struggled through more adversity. And that doesn't mean that Jared Goff is a bad quarterback, but I think the Rams simply are a better football team than the Lions. And honestly, I think they have a better quarterback now. Dr. Detroit says, I think Fields may be a bust. That's my prediction. Then Lance most potential anyway. Honestly, I get where you're coming from with Justin Fields, because obviously he has his moments, right, where he just struggles. He has his moments where either he tries to play hero ball or he doesn't get off his first read in time. But I don't think the whole stereotype that he can't read defenses is true. I've watched enough of Justin Fields to tell you that is not true. He can get to his second, third, and even fourth reads at times. He can make good decisions. He can come off that first read. He can make good throws. And even if he is a little late, he has incredible arm strength and incredible arm talent to make up for that, even at the NFL level. So, I mean, yes, I get where you're coming from, but I don't think that Fields is I don't think his percentage of being a bust is any higher than, say, Trey Lance or Zach Wilson. I think all of them have a lot of talent. I think all of them have a lot of upside, but I think all of them have flaws that could realistically have, I think that all of them have flaws, and this goes for Lawrence too, that could really lead to their downfall, especially in the wrong system. And again, a lot of a player's progression comes from who is in their system, who is their quarterbacks coach, who is their offensive coordinator. That's going to dictate a lot of success for these young quarterbacks. And it's going to dictate a lot of success for every quarterback, no matter where they go in the NFL. Just fill holes until we draft replacements. Fair enough. Lance only had 300-yard game. Lance's last game wasn't incredibly impressive. If that's what you're talking about, but yeah. 3 firsts next year would be OP. 3 firsts next year would be wild. I'd be so happy with that. You guys make no sense. Take a wide receiver and then focus on the defense. At least our offense is technically sound and can carry you a bit. But a great wide receiver, like even I don't think Jamar Chase is gonna make the Lions offense great or bad. Like the difference between getting Jamar Chase versus a Rashad Bateman, is that Rashad Bateman? Is that I just totally blanked on his first name, but Bateman, like getting a Jamar Chase versus Bateman, that's not going to change your offense all that much. Even getting a guy in the second round versus like a Devontae Smith is not really going to make your offense that much better to the point where you can justify taking a wide receiver with the 7th overall pick. You know, as I said, you don't need an elite wide receiver to be successful. You need your wide receiver to do his job. You know, I don't need my wide receiver to moss 4 people at a time. I don't need my wide receiver to be the next Megatron and catch over 3 defenders in the end zone. I need him to make smart decisions. I need him to run good routes, and I need to let my offensive coordinator scheme him open and allow him to make plays where he can make plays. Please and listen to all of them and tell me what you think about them. If anyone else can do that for me, please, that'd be great. Thing. I don't know what you're talking about, but that is okay. Let's see. It's Blitz. Do your research, bro. Shaking my head. This wide receiver class has guys in it that go in the 3rd, but had first round grades plus wide receivers come dime a dozen. That's very, very true. Boy, it would be cheap. Boy, it would be incredibly cheap. I just don't necessarily want him because I don't think his talent's all that good, to be totally honest. He had a couple really good years for sure. But I obviously struggled in Denver a season ago. And I don't know. I don't think that would be the best move for the Detroit Lions. Obviously, there's a price like if we can get him for like really, really cheap, like obviously not league minimum, but like if we could get him for super cheap, I wouldn't necessarily be opposed. But I don't even think he's the best cornerback out there still. So, you know, but again, if he does get signed, it all comes down to what we're paying for him. I hope we can go to a Lions game this year. I really hoping so, man. I want to go back to a Lions game so bad. I love streaming here with you guys, but it's just not the same as being at Ford Field. And hopefully I get to meet some of you at Ford Field. Like if we get to go to Lions games, I'd love to meet some of you at Ford Field. That'd be so dope to meet you in person. A writer is getting to know football way better than 2 years ago. I try, man. I try to get better. I try to improve every single day. And I do my best. But, all right, that was a lot. All right. Blitz cool dip. Don't be surprised if we draft Richie Grant. I wouldn't be surprised. I think Richie Grant's a solid safety. Not my top safety in the class, but far from my bottom safety in the class. We got one folks talking about wide receivers being a premium in a deep class, shaking my head. Yeah. I mean, hey, Tamarion Terry is a guy that I forgot about, but he's really good. I like him as well. So many good wide receivers in this draft. Yeah, I'm a big fan of that. I'm a big fan of this wide receiver class. I'm smelling a trade for Auden Tate or a Michael Gallup. I would not be mad at Michael Gallup. Michael Gallup could be a good one. I like One Pride 40 says one comment below. I'd prefer Gallup for sure, but I prefer Gallup, but I don't think Auden Tate's a bad player at all. Wouldn't be mad at that. Obviously, I'm not going to give up like a 3rd or like a day 2, even an early day 3 pick for either of those guys, really. But I think for like a 5th, a 6th round pick, maybe a depth player, I would not be mad at Michael Gallup. And like for a 6th or 7th, I'd not be mad for Auden Tate either. Speaking of trade value, oh my God, bro, what did we get Michael Brockers for? We got him for a 2023 7th round pick. That is wild. That is incredible. I could not believe that. Couldn't believe it. That was wild. Taking a wide receiver in the top 10 is what Matt Millen did. Do we really want to repeat that? Oh, that was even before my time, and I know the answer to that one. We need wide receiver Jalen Davis or Jalen Darden in the draft. I don't know who that is, but I'll definitely look into it. Just trying to help you guys. Hollering wide receiver at 7 is a must. No, it's not. It is not a must. Just don't take Parsons. I mean, at a point you can take Parsons. At a point there's value for Micah Parsons, but definitely not at 7. Definitely not. Like, if we're at that 15 to 20 range and Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is off the board and Christian Barmore is off the board and Micah Parsons is sitting there, then I think you have an argument, but definitely not at 7. Definitely not at the 7th overall pick. It will be a mistake to not draft Jalen Darden in the 3rd or 4th round. Who is this person? All right, I'm going to look it up really quick. So we got, and I swear if I got to look up something like, no, if I look up okay, so he is a football player, at least. That's good. The wide receiver looks like he goes to North Texas. Oh, you know what? I have seen him a little bit, actually. Now that I look at the uniform, now that I look at okay, I have seen him before. I like him. I like him. I think he's pretty solid. Unless the name is Jamar, then I don't want a wide receiver at 7. That's exactly how I feel. That is exactly the way I'm looking at it. Like, unless it's Jamar Chase, and even if it's Jamar Chase, that's a very, very small if, then I consider taking him at 7. But again, he probably won't be there. Steve-O, what's up, bro? Did you check out Jonathan Adams, Arkansas State? I have not checked him out yet. I don't know if you're talking to me or Steve-O, but I have not checked him out yet, but he's on my list. Unless it's Randy Moss reincarnated, then no way. I think Jamar Chase has the potential to be like another like Larry Fitzgerald. I think he has a potential to be like that next really like face of the franchise, face of the NFL wide receiver. But again, that's all potential. That's obviously not a guarantee. A wide receiver at 7 is far from a must in this class. That's very, very true. And I don't even need to read the rest because I know you're spitting facts. I know you are spitting facts. I see Rondale Moore in there. I like Rondale Moore a lot. I'd be a big fan of him. Wide receiver class is way too deep for what it should be. And it could be even better. I mean, they had Chris Olave was eligible for this draft and he decided to go back. There's a couple other guys that were eligible that went back. Like, this wide receiver class could actually, believe it or not, be more stacked than it already is, which is incredible. I like Elijah Moore than Rondale. I like Elijah Moore. I think they bring very different skill sets. But I like Elijah Moore a lot. I like Elijah, but I like Rondale a lot as well. Trade the 7th overall pick. First round, take a wide receiver in the 1st and try to get Jalen Darden in the 3rd. I wouldn't be mad at that. I wouldn't be mad necessarily. I don't know if I'd want to go wide receiver twice in the first 2 rounds, but I don't think that's the worst thing they can do either. Joey, yeah, I could I mean, hey, the whole wide receiver thing is fine. If you trade with a team like Washington at 19, you will receive another first round pick next year. Take it 3 for, yeah, exactly. And even if you trade down to 19, like Rashad Bateman is still going to be there. You still have a guy like Kadarius Toney, who I'm not incredibly high on, but he'll still be there. You have Terrence Marshall Jr., who, again, I'm not super high on, but he's going to be there for sure at 19. So, I mean, even if you trade down and you want a wide receiver there, you could get it. But at 19, that's going to be your that's going to be your range for Christian Barmore. That's going to be your range for Micah Parsons. That's going to be your range for, even a late Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, an early Zaven Collins potentially sighting right there at 19, like maybe even Azeez Ojulari. That's a potential fit right there at 19. Like, I think, like you said, 19, you get another first round pick and you still have some real good talent on the board. Amari Rodgers is an option. That's very true. I like Amari Rodgers a lot. I do like him quite a bit. One Pride 40, I can't blame you for that. So much talent. It's a lot of talent in this class. Right, you're stupid to not take a wideout in this draft. Oh, I mean, if you don't take a wideout in the entire draft, that would be dumb. But, I mean, obviously, I don't think that it's not there. The value isn't there to take him, or I guess the value is there throughout the draft where you can't justifiably take a wide receiver at 7. But yeah, I mean, this wide receiver class is just so unbelievably good. Dr. Detroit, I would burst yours and say learn satire. Yeah, I've seen Adams. He looks like he can be a hidden gem. Have you seen the Arkansas DT? I've not seen those guys. It all depends on their routes and their schemes. That's super true as well. And as I said, a lot of it comes down to how Anthony Lynn's going to try to use his wide receivers. So many wide receivers in the league are third rounders. Seriously, Holmes and Dorsey have never taken a first round wide receiver, and both have found quality wide receivers throughout the draft. That's super true. Very, very true. And if we're going to learn from history, history tells us they're not going to take a wide receiver at 7. Imagine this. If Wilson on the board and they take Waddle, then I want Holmes to launch that out of a cannon. Oh my goodness. If we take Jalen Waddle over Zach Wilson, I'm not uploading again. Like, you will not hear another word from me. I will be done. I watch them both. I like Jonathan Marshall a lot. Good to know. Guys, 35 in the room and 6 likes. Come on, show some love. I'd be super appreciative, guys. If you guys are in the building and have not hit that like button yet, I would be super, super happy for it. I'd be super grateful. But, you know, you got to do what you got to do. I'm super thankful for everybody being here. But if you could hit that like button, that'd be even better. I like the kid. Yeah. It's kind of crappy that we don't have an abundance of picks this year. I would love to have those conditional picks this year, but man, next year is gonna be lit. Bro. Next year is gonna be so dope for the Lions. They're gonna have so many, like they're gonna have at least 2 first-round picks. They're gonna have at least 2 third-round because I believe they're getting a 3rd round for Kenny Galladay. They could get a couple other conditional picks for guys like Jared Davis or Jamal Agnew or Marvin Jones or some of the other guys that they lost out on this year, but next year's going to be dope. Next year's going to be so lit in the draft season. We're going to have so many picks, especially if we trade out this year and get a couple more. Next year is going to be so fun for draft season. I cannot wait for it. Next will be insane. Just imagine getting another 1st round pick next year after trading back. Dude, that next year is going to be so awesome. Next year is going to be so much fun for Lions fans. A wide receiver, there is no way I would not take Jalen Darden. He means business. That guy has heart. That's something I always look for, is their energy, their heart, like how much they love the game and how much are they willing to work for it. That's one thing that I think goes a little bit undervalued, and I think that's something that goes a little bit unnoticed, but it's something I really like to keep an eye on for. 2022. You can go all defense for all I care. Fair enough. Fair enough. I wouldn't take Fields over Lance. He never gets to his 30. That's not true. That's simply not true. I've seen several times, especially in the Clemson game, where he got to a 3rd or 4th read. It's not true that it's not very true that Justin Fields can't make reads. It's not very true that he can't, read the field. That's simply not true. That's a stereotype put out by the media, and that's just not the case. Has it happened before? Has he got locked in on reads? That is true. Has it happened? Has it been a thing in the past where Justin Fields has not got to that 2nd, 3rd, or 4th read? Yes, that is true. But to say he can't do it is not true. And to say that he's never done it is also not true. I feel like Fields can be the best chance for a bust. You said that earlier. Again, I think all of them have about the same. But Trey Lance doesn't do the same thing either. Like, Trey Lance doesn't read the field incredibly well. He doesn't get to his 2nd, 3rd, or 4th read very often either. So to hold that against Justin Fields and not hold that against Trey Lance would not be fair. I'm happy about the next 2 drafts, about the 4 first-round picks in the next 2 years. Yeah, and it could even be more. It could be 5 or potentially maybe even 6. Like, depending on how they play their cards, like the Lions are going to have at minimum 4 first-round picks, and they could have, realistically, I could see them getting as high as 5 or 6 in the next 2 years, which would be so awesome. I mean, that would be so much fun for Lions fans, and that would be, I mean, that couldn't hurt us on the rebuild, could not help us getting back on to where we want to be, getting back on track. Lions will need a couple years of development if they get him. But who knows? Yeah, I mean, I think I think you can say that about every quarterback, though. I think very, very solemnly do you see a quarterback that is ready to start day one and a guy that will dominate the league day one. For all we know, Trevor Lawrence might not dominate the league year one. He might have his rookie struggles. Peyton Manning struggled year one, had a lot of turnovers, didn't play very well. Like, it's all a matter of time. And I obviously to judge somebody off of their rookie season would be criminal almost. Like that. It wouldn't be fair. LMAU, you haven't watched enough Fields. Dude makes panic throws and pressures and never gets to his 3rd option. I've watched enough to see that he does get to his 3rd option at times. And, I even said this. He does play hero ball. He does try to play hero ball at times, but so does Trevor Lawrence, so does Zach Wilson, so does Trey Lance. Like, every quarterback coming out of college, especially big-name programs, have a lot of similar issues. Trey Lance doesn't get to his 3rd read very often. And actually, I can't remember a play in his Central Arkansas game, in his only game in 2020, where I saw him get to his third or fourth read. He's always going to his first or second guy, and that's not going to fly in the NFL. I've at least seen Justin Fields get to his second, third, and fourth read before, and I've seen him make throws under pressure that are incredibly difficult NFL throws that I just simply haven't seen Lance make before. If we sign KZ and he gets 5 interceptions this season, I'd be so happy. If we sign KZ and he gets 3 interceptions, I'd be happy with it. And Lance runs first and doesn't go through progressions. That's super true. That's something I noticed immediately. One Funky Lions fan says Peyton Manning didn't throw for 300 yards in a single Super Bowl, yet he has rings. So stats are overvalued by fans. That's true. And I mean, at the same time, like, look at some of the quarterbacks that have won Super Bowls. Like, it's not always an elite Super Bowl or it's not always an elite quarterback play that wins team Super Bowls. They kind of do when they play at the D2 college. Yeah, that's fair. If the Lions would have took, let's say, the Washington trade and got a real stopgap quarterback, getting QB would be the only option. People falling in love with Goff is a mistake. Let's just see. Yeah, I mean, at the same time, like, we haven't even seen Goff play yet, and we're already talking about replacing him. So, I gotta wait and see for sure. LMAO, you haven't actually watched Lance, if that's what you think. I mean, I've watched quite a bit, but I mean, maybe we watch different games, but from what I've seen, he like, Trey Lance does not process things as fast as Justin Fields. He just doesn't. I mean, that's just as simple as it is. And to be totally honest, Justin Fields plays better competition and showed more flash, more ability to read the field than what I've seen out of Trey Lance. So maybe I've watched the wrong games. Maybe I've been watching the wrong things, but I don't see it. I don't see how you can take Lance over Justin Fields. Goff is not garbage, but we have to be cautious and falling in love with the guy like he's the savior. Yeah, exactly. I don't think he's the savior. I've never once said that Jared Goff is, going to be an elite quarterback in Detroit, but I think he's going to be serviceable. I'm not in love with the quarterback, but I'm not gonna hate the guy either before I really get a chance to watch him on the field. So, that's just how it is. That's how it's going to be. And that's kind of how I'm viewing it right now. I'm kind of cautiously optimistic about Jared Goff, just like I am with the Lions in general. Like, that's just kind of how I look at things. I'd rather have Gillespie over Grant. I like Gillespie. I do like Gillespie a lot, but I like Richie Grant quite a bit too. So, I mean, yeah, like Don Burr says, fun fact, Gillespie is a really good safety. So, yeah, I mean, they're both pretty good. What about taking Asante Samuel in the second round? He'd be able to help in the slot. I think that would be a good move. I don't think that'd be bad. I don't know if the Lions would be taking a slot cornerback with their second pick. I think you could get Shaun Wade in like middle of day 3, maybe even late day 3, because of how he played last year. And I know a recency bias is a big thing, but he plays really well in the slot. Like, he's pretty good when he's a slot and nickel defender. So I think even I wouldn't be mad at Asante Samuel for any reason. I'd be actually pretty happy with that pickup, but I think you could even get similar production for a guy way later in the draft class if you wanted to, just as another option. Check out Jalen Darden, wide receiver. You'll be impressed, or I will shut up. I'll check him out, man. I'll check him out for sure. I'll take Gillespie over Grant. Also, he covers more field to me. I mean, yeah, I think there's that argument to be made. Watch Durden's video. That would be the best pick in the second or third round. I'll be checking it out. I just can't watch it on here because I'll get copyrighted, and I will get in a lot of trouble if I show NFL clips on a live stream. Darden is good, but I would say in the NFL he has to learn to take more yardage when given he jukes too much sometimes. I mean, everybody's going to have their flaws, right? But that doesn't make him a bad player by any means. Preaching Amon-Ra St. Brown. I like him a lot. I think he'd be really solid. I like that the younger guys are really starting to educate themselves on football versus just being slappy fans. Like I said, I try my best. Next year, you can draft heavy defense. Next year, 2022, you have defense everywhere. That's fair. It's fair. I haven't taken a lot of look, and I'll be the first one to admit I have not looked at the 2022 class yet, or at least not in depth. Obviously, I know Kayvon Thibodeau. I know obviously some of the big name players, but I have not gone really in depth with that one yet. And obviously, as next year approaches, as guys start to come up, and as the college football season happens, I will educate myself more so on the 2022 class. 40, oh yeah, for sure. Next year. Next year should be fun. Next year should be a fun one. I say follow your draft board, take best player available, don't reach. I would agree with you to a point. I would agree with you to a point with that one. I think obviously positional value is positional value for a reason, and best player available makes sense to a point. Like, I mean, obviously, I'm not going to take a wide receiver rounds 1 and round 2. I'm not going to take, a quarterback round 1 and 2 just because, like, I'm not going to take 2 quarterbacks just because the quarterback might be the best player on the board at the pick. Like, I agree with you to a point, Don. I agree with you to a point. Darden is freaking tiny. He went to a small school. He's a late day 3 guy. I don't think that's necessarily true. I mean, not that he's not small, obviously not that he didn't go to a small school, but from what everybody's saying, I wouldn't be mad at a not second round, but day 3 pick. We got 2 picks on day we got 2 picks in the third round, 2 picks in the third round, 3 picks on day 2. I mean, I don't think using one of them on him would be bad. But again, I got to watch him more before I really make that definitive statement and say, like, for sure we should take him or not. Trade the pick, go O-line or defense, then start looking for wide receiver. That's what I'm thinking. I want Haskell Garrett next year. I've heard you talk about him quite a bit. I wouldn't be mad at Darden in the late rounds at all. He's a guy like Rantawan Randall L. to coach him at wide receiver. That's fair. He's a nasty D2 with hand moves. Fair enough. Like I said, I haven't taken a lot of look at the 2022 class yet, but I'll definitely, as next year kind of goes on, obviously I'll get more educated. BPA, this team needs impact players at every level on both sides of the ball. Very true. If Darden goes to another team, we will have missed an opportunity we won't get for years. I don't know if he's that good, but I think he seems like a solid wide receiver. Thanks, Don Burr. I accept the support in that idea. I like Darden as a day 3 flyer, but that's all he is. I have to look Darden up. I did too. I gotta watch more of him. I haven't seen a lot. I've seen snippets and I'm okay with it, but I haven't seen like a lot from him. With respect, Joey, I'll completely disagree. Study his film. Darden is my favorite sleeper in the draft. Like I said, that's the fun part about the draft season is like everybody has their own opinion. Everybody has watched different games. Everybody sees different things on tape, and everybody evaluates differently, which leads to a lot of fun. 2021, the focus should be wide receiver, O-line, linebacker, and maybe safety, but the draft is offensive predicated. That's true. I think this draft is definitely more skewed towards the offensive side of the ball. Thanks, Eva. I appreciate the reply. Agnew was a bad guy, loaded the ground like Darden. Yeah, I'm fair enough. Obviously, Agnew played cornerback, but in college, but that's okay. Shifty. Okay, I was like, what are you talking? Okay, I read that and I was like, I was slightly confused for a second, but obviously Shifty makes the most sense. 2020, we will have over 70 million in cap space, possibly 15 picks. That'd be, oh my god, that'd be such a fun offseason. Ooh, I'm excited already. I'm already getting excited for that draft class and for that free agency period. I keep trying to get in touch with the Lions to plead with them to take Dart. I mean, good luck with that. I have connections with the Lions, but I don't got those kind of connections. I would wait till his pro day before I call him the next Tyreek Hill, but if he doesn't run a low 4.4, I doubt he gets drafted, to be honest, guys. With his size that run the 4.5s have success in the league or don't have success in the league. I mean, yeah, fair enough. Pro day is going to tell you a lot. His film versus conference USA teams. Darden is 5'9", 175. You're betting on him to be an extreme outlier. Maybe so. I think the Lions turn this around just as quick as the Browns and Bills did. It done correctly. I just trust John Dorsey and Brad Holmes. Can't forget Ray Agnew either. That's super, super true. Start Darden fan club. He'll be there in the 5th. In the 5th, I wouldn't mind it then at that point. How old are you? A day 3 guy unless he runs in the 4.3s. Fair enough. Fair enough. Even if he does, he's still a day 3. Fair. Um, Steve, I understand. I have been watching video on this kid like crazy, and his sleeper pick Darden's a sleeper. Maybe so. All right, we gotta leave in like 5-10 minutes. I gotta go. As I said, I gotta go get COVID tested, unfortunately, because I've been exposed. So I gotta hop off here in a couple of minutes. We'll go to about 150, maybe 155. But if you guys are in the building, we got 38 people right now, which is a very good number. I'm very, very happy with the outcome today. Very, very one surprised because we don't usually get this high of a number. So I'm very grateful, very thankful for you guys. We'll go for about 5-10 more minutes and then we will hop off. As I said, a little bit of a shorter stream, which I apologize about, but sometimes that's just going to be the way things happen. So we'll move down yet again. What helps us the most? Helping our offense get better in the OT or wide receiver, or should we go defense? Honestly, I think the trenches is going to help the Lions the most. I think most good NFL teams build through the trenches, and that's why I'm really, especially if we're at 7, I'm preaching for Rashawn Slater. And if we're, kind of later in the draft, I'm thinking Christian Barmore. I'm thinking maybe even a Gregory Rousseau or a Jalen Phillips. A Jalen Phillips is a guy that I really like. He's a guy that the more I watch, the more I'm impressed with. He could be a real good pick in like the middle of the first round. But I'm thinking trenches more than anything. And regardless of offense or defense, I think trenches should be the number 1 priority for the Lions. There's at least a dozen wide receivers I would take before him, even considering Darden. I mean, to be fair, there's a lot of good wide receivers in this class. So to say you take a dozen wide receivers, like that gets you through maybe the second round of the NFL draft. Like maybe even that might have died. That like 12 wide receivers may go before the second round is over. So, I mean, I'm not saying like that, that's a good or bad or other. I'm just saying that there's a lot of good wide receivers in this class. What other free agents would you like to see the Lions bring in? I'd like to see Kazi come in. I'd like to see Damontae Kazi. I don't know. The safety from the Falcons that they brought in yesterday, I'd be a big fan of. Eric Wilson, I believe, is still out there, still on the board, still on the market. I'd be really happy with him. I don't think it's going to happen, but if Mitchell Schwartz could come here, he's a really good tackle. He's an older tackle, and I think would cost a lot of money, but I think for the right deal, he's a very good tackle, protected Patrick Mahomes and Alex Smith for a long time, is still playing at a very high level, still really good. Obviously injured for the Super Bowl, but has been a very good tackle in the NFL for a long time, would really solidify that one. I'm trying to think, maybe another tight end. I don't know who's out there, but I don't really. Hopkins is obviously a monster, but I'm not really the biggest fan of Josh Hill. I like Austin Bryant, but he only has 1 catches in his career. So maybe another tight end, maybe a secondary player again outside of the safety, maybe a cornerback like AJ Boye. Not necessarily. I just mentioned AJ because that was something that was mentioned this morning. But I'm thinking maybe another cornerback, potentially a guy in the slot. If they, maybe Mike Ford plays in the slot, but I'd like at least 1 or 2 more cornerbacks before the season kicks off. 1 in free agency, 1 in the draft. Linebacker's a position I want us to address. As I said, Wilson would be good. I don't know what other linebackers are out there, but I'm sure there's a couple of guys out there that can still make plays. And then, anything on the defensive line, really. Anything that could help. We have some decent pass rushers. We have a lot of money locked into our edge rushers. So I'm thinking maybe interior defensive line, bring in 1 more guy that can really get you good penetration from the nose tackle, really get you some good penetration from the defensive tackle position. I think could be real helpful for this team as well. But I couldn't tell you necessarily name wise who that would be. The focus in this draft, Lions should go wide receiver, O-line, linebacker, nickel, corner, safety, maybe. Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's very fair. I'd prioritize O-line. I prioritize linebacker first, and then, middle of the rounds, I'd go wide receiver. I'd go nickel cornerback late, and I'd even go, maybe like a fly safety in the, like maybe a Paris Ford in like the later rounds. I think that could be realistic as well. Darden would be a fantastic punt returner. That could be. We're definitely looking for a punt returner. That's another one that we could look at in free agency is a punt returner. I know Darrell Patterson's still out there. I know there's a couple other guys out there that could be good punt returners. So I think that'd be fair. PP says, prayers for your test negative, sir. I hope so. I've been tested 4 times in the past like week and a half. They've all been negative. I haven't had any symptoms or anything, so I think I'm okay. I just got to confirm it before I can go play tonight. So I appreciate the prayers, though. I appreciate you, man. There are definitely going to be a guy or two that we have to probably look up. Brad Holmes, John Dorsey have eyes in the sky. We don't have access to that. Lol. Fair enough. Fair enough, man. Yeah, John Dorsey was at the Georgia Pro Day. That's another thing I forgot to mention. He was at the Georgia Pro Day whenever that happened. I believe that was Wednesday. So that's fair. But I mean, I think they got a plan, man. John Dorsey is always doing some behind the scenes things, always kind of a quiet guy, but makes the best picks. And I think he's the most underrated. I think he's the most underrated pick up the lines have had this year. The point is we shouldn't reach for Smith. Trade back and take a wide receiver if you want that. Yep, very true. That's exactly what I'm thinking. I definitely excited to see how this front office handles the draft. They've done a good job hiding what they're going to do because they have no clue. Fair enough. Wait, what? I said fair enough, and I think I misread that. They've done a good job hiding what they're going to do because I thought you said because they have no idea. And I was like, I think they have a plan. But yeah, I mean, that's one of the advantages of having a new general manager and new coaches is the NFL doesn't know what you're going to do. The NFL hasn't seen you draft before. They haven't seen your game plan. They haven't seen you put together a good, they haven't seen you put together anything. So they don't know what you're looking for. So yeah, I think they've done a good job with that. And I'm really happy with the way they've gone so far. I'm glad we didn't grossly overpay Galladay. Very true. I'm happy with that one too. But I would trade back for Bateman and I wouldn't be mad. If we traded back for Bateman, I wouldn't be mad either. And then the last comment of the day is give me Monty Rice. So with all that being said, that's all I got for you guys today. The clock just ticked over for an hour. We started at like 1:48. It's now just about 1:50. It'll tick over any second. So that's all I got for you guys today. As I said, a little bit of a shorter stream. I apologize for not being around last week. I apologize for the shorter stream this week. Hopefully things can get back to normal. My life is getting kind of busy recently. A lot of my weekends are being taken up. So I will do my best to get the streams out as often as possible and try to get back to a little bit of normalcy. But with all that, that's all I got for you guys. Thank you all so very much for tuning in. And with all that, that's all I got for you guys. See you guys tomorrow with more Lions content. I appreciate everybody for showing up today. If you are not subscribed to the channel, one last thing. We are trying to hit 1,000 before the draft. We are just under 60 subscribers away. So if you know somebody that's a Lions fan, if you know somebody that's an NFL fan, then I'd love to hear it. I love the support. I love if you guys could share it around. So with all that being said, that's all I got for you guys. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see y'all tomorrow with more content. Thank you all for watching, and of course, go Lions.